Lord of Darkness. Sunshine is my destroyer. What's up, everybody? Welcome to PCP Movie Night here on Pop Culture Philosophers. And tonight we're continuing Crew's Choice, where the crew gets to pick the movies, but they all have to involve Tom Cruise this year. That's the only thing. Tonight we're talking about Legend, filmed by Ridley Scott, starring Tom Cruise, Mia Sara, and of course, Tim Curry. A really interesting film to talk about, and it is one of the crew members' choice. It was Joe's choice, so let's bring him in. Joe Corallo.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So no, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I've loved this movie for a long time. I discovered it while I was working at Hollywood Video. I was in high school. They just released the 2-disc DVD set, and it was like 2002 with the theatrical cut and the director's cut. So I've been enjoying this movie for quite some time. It's been a favorite of mine for a while. I've showed it to a number of people, and I'm glad to be talking about it here.
Heck yeah, man. Really good one. You know, everybody was befuddled at first when we announced Crew's Choice. It's got to involve Tom Cruise, and everybody's like, they're thinking you're just like Legend. You like dropped it immediately. You were like down. I remember when that DVD came out too. It had like the plastic cover and all that stuff that unfolded, right? Now I got this really nifty Arrow edition. It's pretty much the same thing, theatrical and the US cut, or the US theatrical and the director's cut. But you can also get the European cut, because there's a third cut. Like I haven't seen that one, so I kind of want to see that one. But joining us also tonight, because through a series of misfortunate or unfortunate events, I should say, half the panel is not going to be able to be here tonight. But we are joined by Brooks, who this is his first time watching this movie. Said he never even heard of it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this movie at all, surprisingly.
Well, if you look at the box office numbers, that backs up the
Yeah, it did not do very well. It did not do well critically or commercially at all. In fact, it kind of garnered that cult following later on. And I think even in particular, when that DVD was released, it kind of, elevated that following a little bit. I remember this movie from being a kid, because I remember being terrified of Tim Curry. Like, Tim Curry scared the shit out of me when I watched this movie as a kid. And I don't remember if I watched it on TV, on cable, or if it was VHS. I don't remember getting it from the VCR video rental place, but I always had fond memories of this movie. And then there was a time where I was watching it in high school, and I was like, yeah, it's just okay, right? But then, like, the director's cut, I don't know, I got some thoughts, honestly. I watched both this week, right?
Yeah.
So I watched the director's cut first, and I felt, man, this feels a little bloated. It feels a little too long. Like, there's some moments like, oh my goodness, if I have to watch these dudes throw saucers and like line up the sun rays, like, that's just seemed to drag for me. There were moments that drug. And so then I was excited. Well, let me watch the theatrical cut, and it's shorter, but it's so clunky in its editing. It's just like so choppy, especially after watching the director's cut. So I think the story is a little bit more like, I don't know, involved in the director's cut, but I wish that would have been trimmed down just a little bit. And then in the director's cut, you get the Jerry Goldsmith score, but in the theatrical cut, you get the Tangerine Dream score. And I actually love that Tangerine Dream score. Yeah. So I don't know, it's an interesting movie. I think the way to watch it is to watch all the versions and just kind of put in your head the perfect version of Legend, because I don't know if it actually exists necessarily, but I really enjoyed on the revisit. It's my girlfriend, it's one of her favorite movies. So we watched the theatrical cut together. It was her first time watching that cut, actually. And we were like just so befuddled by the, like, why did they cut that part out? Like, that was important, and everything's just kind of really tight, but maybe too tight. But overall, I do like the movie. I think it's visually stunning. It is one of the most gorgeous films out there. I love both scores. I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott. It's not my favorite movie that he did, but I do think it's the best looking film that he did. And that's saying a lot, man. So, Joe, you picked it. Tell us about your history with it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I was starting with it with discovering it while I was at Hollywood Video and buying that DVD that had both versions. And yeah, to echo a bunch of what you were saying, like there are pros and cons to both. I ultimately I prefer the director's cut. But yeah, like you were saying, like if it was the director's cut and like they used maybe 80% of the Tangerine Dream score, because I do think there are moments in it that it doesn't work as well. And yeah, I mean, you barely have to trim anything, but I'd rather the longer version, because honestly, the theatrical cut is kind of nonsensical. It cuts way too much. There's no character arc for Lily. There's no character arc, really for Jack. There's a lot, like, it's the director's cut is a coherent film that has a clear beginning, middle, and end, and goals and stuff like that. Like, because one of the biggest criticisms I've heard over the years of people who are only familiar with the theatrical cut is like, yeah, it's basically like a long music video and there's some cool stuff going on, but the script's not very good and this and that. And it's like, I think the script's fine. It's not the most amazing script in the world, but like when you watch the director's cut, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with the script. So it's more than serviceable. It's a solid script that has a few moments and quotes in it that really stand out. But again, like I think you need that longer cut. Like they took out that Lily's a princess in the theatrical cut. Like there's all these like little weird things that they chose to they thought it was more important for Jack to just go straight to being a hero and not doubting himself and this and that. And I think that takes away a lot from his character. They cut a lot of the bits with Lily sort of leaning into her naivete and kind of being innocent and like being like and being more of a spoiled brat as a result, like innocently. And she gets a really solid character arc through the story in the director's cut, where we see her being more unlikable and things sort of building up. The US cut shows us Tim Curry's darkness there in the beginning, and that sucks. You really need
I love those nails though, man. I love those nails.
The nails are great, but the whole point is like you shouldn't see this character till an hour in the movie. Like it's like a reveal. Like we see darkness when Lily sees darkness. Like we're sort of following, like Lily's almost the character that we're supposed to be empathizing with the most. Like, oh, what's wrong with this, with this world? I just want to like enjoy it. Why can't I go, meet the unicorn, this and that? And so we're confronting darkness with her, which is more impactful, I think. And then having Jack sort of be the one, towards the end there, who's having to tell everyone else off to kind of be like, no, I know Lily, she's got this. And having that person you've made a bond with that has like faith in you and paying it off for them, plays off really well. The ending's much better in the director's cut, because it's the only version where Jack goes off into the sun by himself, and that's really how this movie should end. It's no, he's like a immortal fairy type person, and Lily's a princess. They could never actually be together. It was naive for them. It was naive for Lily to think she could. And then she has that character arc at the end where she realizes that and lets Jack go and be free. And that's, you could extrapolate that out beyond, this sort of metaphor set up and just understanding the maturity of relationships and all that. But yeah, I'm going so deep already. I should stop before we get to we want to talk about other stuff later. So
Speaking of going deep, Jelani is here. What is up, Jelani?
Oh, damn.
Hey. Sorry, guys.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me and hear me? I guess.
Yeah.
I'm at my grandparents' house, so I'm trying to. There's a lot of family from craziness going on right now, so. But I'm here. Hey, legend. Good stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, Jelani. I hope everything's going all right, man.
Yeah, man.
But
they're fair to middling. We'll see what's going on. But yeah, glad to be here.
All right. Heck yeah, legend, the director's cut. So, Joe, you just told us what you thought. Brooks, this was your first time watching it. Never even heard of it. It's crazy to me. It's one of those. It's a big inspiration, actually.
I was really into that kind of. I don't know about that, but this is definitely a movie like back in the day I would have liked as a kid, because I was really into those like those old fantasy movies, like all those movies they used to do back in the day with like wizards and like the Conan the Barbarian movies and shit like that. It was like a thing that I used to rent a lot, when we go and rent movies at the local gas station. So I've never seen this one, never heard of it. Like, and if they'd have put the Tim Curry, image on the box, this is one I definitely would have watched back then, but it'd been under my radar till now. And I watched this movie, I had to mull it over for a while. Like, man, I really like this movie, but I don't know. I have issues with it, but those issues kind of are what are part of its charm too. So I kind of chase my tail in a way, oh man, it's so simple, but it's kind of supposed to be simple though, kind of like that. But I'm glad I'm here to talk about it. A lot of thoughts.
So you liked it, but there's something. There's some, just some things, right? But you're right. It is it's a fairy tale. It's it's meant to be like this simple, child's tale almost in a way, brought to life by Ridley Scott, never been brought to life before. You know what I'm saying? We never seen really stuff like that for a fantasy film, so I don't know. It is an interesting film to dissect. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about Legend overall?
Well, I mean, I saw this as a little kid, like a real little kid. So they played it on VHS at one of the hundreds of places I went for preschool. And I've seen it over the years many times, the regular theatrical cut. I've never watched the director's version. And I didn't get a chance to do any research on what the differences were.
Is it just me, or did Jelani freeze?
So
he did, but he's back.
It's fairly, I mean, like you said before, it's just, hold on. Oh, yeah, I'll come back and I'll go back and forth. I'm using my Wi-Fi or using my own hotspot, so it may be going in and out. I may have to use my phone. Can you see me?
Oh. I can see you.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. All right. Just want to be sure, because I might have to switch my phone. But it's a simple tale. It's one of those films that still I remember the most because of Tim Curry, the way he looks. Darkness. He's just, the Lord of Darkness is probably the most iconic thing in that. As a little kid, he didn't scare me. He just it impressed me. I was like, and then years later, I found out it was Tim Curry, and I was like, oh, that's wild. It's the fact that he's in this demon costume, in this full regalia, and you can't tell it's him, but it sounds like him. It acts like him. It was crazy. And then I watched this again, I don't know, it's been a few years, probably maybe 10, 15 years. I saw it again on VHS. So I liked it then. I remember, that was probably the Hollywood video days, the last time I really watched it. And I just really, I appreciate it. I know there are a whole lot of things I don't like, to be honest. There are a few things that I'm just like, whatever. But that's the special effects, all of everything that makes this movie cool. The practical things, all just the pretty things, the unicorns in general, the witch. There's so many things. Tim Curry in general is so beautiful. But like I said, there are a lot of things I don't like, but then there are a lot of things I love about this movie. And it's still crazy to me that it kind of holds up. So I like it. It's got its moments.
Heck yeah. So this is Cruise's choice, and Tom Cruise is in this movie. He's one of the performers in the film. I think he's not really a standout performer in the film, but it's going to be interesting to see how this discussion goes. So out of the cast, what are the characters? What are the performances that stick out to you? What do you want to highlight, Joe?
You know what? I'm going to highlight, was it Alice Playton as Blix? I love Blix in this movie. What was it? Great lines. Just a great sort of, Blix is kind of the Starscream of this movie. Just the, trying to one up Darkness, but like playing it off. Has some great little lines and moments with Darkness, like Black as Midnight, Switch, and that whole bit. It's just so good, and the design for Blix, which was apparently influenced by Mick Jagger, but
Keith Richards.
Beyond, Keith Richards. That's what I meant. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, he's old. He's old and goblin.
Yes.
He's a goblin.
Yeah.
You can replace the two. The two are interchangeable.
Yeah, but Keith Richards was that old then, and that's 40 years ago. It's crazy. But no, and just like some really like amazing moments with Blix throughout. When Blix gets caught, just sort of using the unicorn's horn as he wishes, all of that, and then just the design is so like gross and slimy, like feels so alive. Like there are so like, and this is sort of across the board with all the different like goblins and the different prosthetics and stuff like that are used in the costuming. Everything feels like sort of wet and alive in a way that like crazy. A lot of movies coming out. Yeah, a lot of movies coming out around then did not. Like very like nothing feels like a stupid rubber monster in this. Like everything, and Blix is part of the reason why that works. So I'm gonna go with Blix.
Yeah, 100%. That actress is also the voice of Gump in the film too. And the film is the whole film is dubbed because they filmed it at Pinewood Studios at the James Bond stage, which burned down towards the end of production, right? And they built like a whole forest in there. There are like birds and stuff like living there, and everything was too noisy, so they had to dub everything, which you can tell a little bit in the movie, but it doesn't come across like a Hong Kong or a Italian horror film or anything like that. It doesn't come across that bad
because they're speaking English.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Brooks, what about you, man? What's a character you want to highlight?
Gump, man. Like the moment he entered the screen, like he had the best first impression of any character. This is like, is this motherfucker crazy? Because he gives him this like fucking look, and you're like, oh man, is he about to fucking try and kill him or something? But in the end, he turns out to be a pretty good guy, I guess. But I swear I've seen this kid somewhere before, but I could not place it. Like the kid who plays Gump.
Yeah.
Like I cannot. I racked my brain, but I could not think of what movie I've seen him in. But he definitely is he's a standout, I think, in this movie.
Heck yeah. All right, Jelani, what about you? What's a performance you want to highlight?
Well, I mean, of course I'm going to go with Tim Curry's Darkness. I mean, he's the most memorable thing to me from Legend in general. Like, why not? He's so imposing. The way he carries the screen, no matter what. I mean, those effects for him, the prosthetics they use still blow my mind. Like, they're not doing that now. It's a lot of things that we should have right now for monsters instead of just CG. Like Thanos, they could have worked that out. I don't know. Thanos scenes, it didn't have to all be CGI. Hulk didn't all have to be CG. some stuff could be practical and you could make it work. Put some things around it. But thanks, Verno. Yeah, appreciate it. But just his look, the way he was, just how awesome he was on screen. And going back to Brooks, I am not a fan of Gump. I mean, he was just a kid with an annoying voice. Very annoying to me. I just thought he was just super annoying. And all the trolls just bothered me in some way. Just little things about him, but it's okay. I'm not knocking Brooks's choice. It's just and as a kid,
better lay off.
It's always freaking kids. But
throw hands.
Yeah, my only down thing about Tim Curry is his sword skills. He has trash sword skills. He should have whooped Tom Cruise easily with that sword. He's got a big honking sword. He's like a demon, so he should be like smacking that thing around and hitting people in the face. I mean,
the dude's basically like in all this makeup, like on stilts on these little goat legs, right? Like he is that makeup. That makeup is absolutely stunning, and the way he performs through it is great too. That's Rob Bottin, and a lot of people say that this or The Thing, like one of those movies, that's his best work, And like if you really think about this movie and all those creatures, like it's pretty wild, dude. Like if he would have done Lord of the Rings back in the day, he could have done it. Like easily. That's the guy, 100%. And Tim Curry, he overacts in most of the stuff that he's kind of in, right? That's or the stuff that we really know him for, and it allows him to come through that costume. And even though it doesn't look like him, it is Tim Curry, and you can tell. And it kind of looks like him when he smiles and he has a like I love Tim Curry, and it's
like a twinge of Tim Curry in it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
But
and those giant ass horns.
I love
giant ass horns.
Huge.
I want to spotlight Robert Picardo as what is it, Meg Mugglebones, the witch that comes out that he has to cut her head off, right? That's Robert Picardo, the doctor from Star Trek Voyager, who worked with Rob Bottin in The Howling, right? He was like the first werewolf that transforms in that. And he is there for so little. He's in there so little in the theatrical cut, right? But in the director's cut, that scene's a little bit more extended. And man, he is pulling right through that too. And they would dunk him in the water and pull him up, and it would just be drenched in water and so heavy. And he's just like emoting through that and that voice. And when you think that that's Robert Picardo, you're like, what? Yeah. That's wild, man. That's so cool. But the style and structure. Yeah, the style and structure. So the movie is all style. It hits 5 you digs across the board, strictly speaking from style. The look of the film, the set, like the fact that like all those seeds floating in the air, I think they're like chopped up chicken feathers that they're blowing around in the studio, right? They had all those fires. Like it's so amazing that this is all practical, and like nowadays it's all just drenched in special effects and green screens and all that kind of stuff. And you lose the texture and the reality that you get in something like Legend. Like it is astounding when you realize that this was done in a studio, right? Like you wouldn't believe it, right? And then the special effects of Rob Bottin, like absolutely freaking stellar. Structures where it kind of worries me a little bit. Like the story is simple and there are themes there, very simple, good, evil, light, dark, all that kind of stuff. But it's padded too much at times in the director's cut. And like you said, Joe, you wouldn't barely have to cut anything. It's just like maybe 5 minutes shaved off of that, I think would keep the pace going when it kind of dulls out a little bit there. But in the theatrical cut, it's all way too choppy, man. There are times where we watch it and we're like, wait a second, they were just there. Now they're at the cave to get the armor and the sword. Like what? It's just like, it's weird cuts and it's super jumpy. Yeah. So structurally speaking, on both sides, both versions, I think that's the weakness of it, but the story's fine and it's simple and it's basic, but the style of it, the look, the cinematography, everything about it is, dude, when the unicorn's getting his horn cut off and like the pink petals or whatever are like floating around everywhere. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And one of the reasons why he started chopping it down was Ridley Scott did a screening and he saw these people that were snickering, and he could smell that they were smoking pot, and it bothered him, right? So he started like cutting it down and trying to make it, more of a serious film, I guess, or more appealing to the youth, right? That's why they added in Tangerine Dream and shortened it up and basically tried a never-ending story it. But it's just such a beautiful film. What do you think about the style and structure, Joe?
Similar in the sense of the style for this. It's like, stylistically speaking, this movie kicks most movies' asses. It's hard to come close to the style of Legend, and kind of like what you were saying before too, like it's probably the best looking Ridley Scott film, period. And he's done a lot of really nice looking movies. And then with the director's cut, I would say the structure is standard down the middle. The structure is very serviceable. I think with the theatrical cut is where it cut too much, and that's where I think the structure's kind of it turns more into a negative, whereas I think with the director's cut, it's more of a neutral kind of like, I've seen better, I've seen worse. It's like the structure, it makes sense. I think the fact that the movie makes sense in the director's cut like really elevates it a lot. Like it's very clear on different things, and it sets everything up really well, and it pays things off at the end, and it doesn't feel like the other cuts. You feel the studio interference. You feel the like, oh, why are they doing that? Like, this doesn't make sense that this is happening. At times, like the ending doesn't make sense outside the director's cut. If they're like, they should not be together. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But yeah. So I would say with the director's cut, it's like style is. If we gave more than a 5, it would be more than a 5. And then structure, I don't know. I could, 2.5 or 3 on the director's cut with like the structure.
Absolutely. What about you, Brooks? What are you thinking about the structure and the style?
Well, I agree. Like, this movie's like style-wise, like you can't do better. I don't think. Like it's very much, the style is very fitting for the subject matter. Like, this is like one of the most fantasy movies I've ever seen, like style-wise. Structurally, it is a bit wobbly though. It does kind of jump around a little bit, and like kind of rushes through certain parts, and kind of just. I think like it could have used like. That's kind of thing I like about it though, is how it is simple. It's like it's not trying to like build lore, or world build, or anything like that. It's just kind of one-off. Kind of almost like a Grimm's fairy tale type morality tale type fantasy story, which it works like to and against the movie at times. But like even if like you're confused in a scene, or like you're not, the scene's not as interesting, like it always looks good enough to kind of make up for it, so you don't feel like the movie's dragging too much, even when it does drag.
It's one of those movies that you could just kick back, smoke a J, and just just watch it, But don't let Ridley Scott know. Don't let Ridley Scott know that though. He'll come after. I also love how the story doesn't, like those old school Grimm fairy tales and stuff, right? It doesn't shy away from the darkness stuff. Right. And I'm not just talking about the character. I'm talking about like the dark elements of the film, right? Like the temptation of Lily, for instance. And oh my God, her dress, her like evil black dress and her hair
is gorgeous.
Jesus, it is gorgeous. That scene is so amazing, and it's way more extended in the director's cut. And it makes sense. Like all of it does make more sense. But I do like that it doesn't shy away from that, because I remember being a kid and this movie was scary. Dylan did this movie last year. We did it for Dylan's horror show, and I was like, I guess it kind of makes sense. There's elements of it that do feel like a horror movie. What about you, Jelani? Style and structure?
Yeah, style, of course, like we've all said, it oozes style. It's one of those films where it is like even like what you said, Brooks. It's the most fantasy fantasy movie you'll ever see. It's pretty much like nail on the head kind of thing, like Grimm's fairy tale right on it. There are parts that it looks like it's shot on a studio set. I don't know, just it has that feeling. And then just certain aspects. But one of my favorite things about it is the dungeon scene where it looks like a boiler room and the guy in the background is like hitting and torturing that other guy, and it's like repeated because every time he hits him, he sits up. He's like, oh, I'm in pain, you know, and it feels as atmospheric. It gives you that little range. Excuse me, but it looks great. Of course, like I said, I will never stop gushing over Tim Curry's and the witch and how the trolls look. All the practical effects, everything about this, just it's gorgeous. Down to the unicorn's horns, even though in 4K it looks weird because you can see the little ring and it looks kind of fake, but you have to really look for stuff like that. I mean, it's nitpicky. It's not even that big.
They're wobbling a little bit too.
Yeah, they're a little like they're gonna fall off. Yeah, it looks like.
What are you gonna do, man? Be like, horse, you gotta like really run fast, but like keep a little steady on your fucking forehead.
You get a carrot. You got to get a carrot. So, I mean, it looks gorgeous, stylistically beautiful, fantastic. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, gorgeous. But the structure itself is very basic. It is very, hey, this is a fairy tale. Girl meets guy, throws a ring, meets some unicorns, gets one of the unicorns killed, has to fight a demon, get cool armor, get cool friends, the end. It's kind of one of these things, and the ending does bother me. I don't know. Like, they are together, but at the same time, like, I don't understand it. I don't understand why all of a sudden she's been in love with Jack all this time. It's just weird. And the director's cut is cooler in different ways. Now that I'm thinking about the theatrical things, because it explains a lot more in this one. But at the same time, it's still just basic story. It's just there for me. I can't really say, but it's just looking at it visually. It's fantastic. That's all I can say about those here.
All right, let's talk about the music. So the music was done by Jerry Goldsmith, who worked with Ridley Scott on Alien. Also did the score for The Omen, the Star Trek motion picture. I am a huge fan of Jerry Goldsmith's scores, and I love this score. He spent 6 months working on this. Big classical kind of sounding, but it's got those dark elements there, like when they're in the darkness, when they're talking about that character, when he's involved, like the whoa, it really nails all of that stuff for me, right? And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful score. But man, do I love the Tangerine Dream score in the theatrical cut. Like, it's a different tone. It's more electronic, synthy, very 80s, more dated. Like the Jerry Goldsmith score, like, ages very well on the film, right? Keeps it kind of timeless. But the Tangerine Dream score, very much dated. But, like last week when we talked about Risky Business, I'm a big mark for Tangerine Dream. So I wish that I could get like the director's cut and have the option to put the Tangerine Dream score on it, right? So I can toggle back and forth. I mean, I get it, but like, I actually love both scores, but they are both different. And I love the Tangerine Dream one, but we're talking about the director's cut in particular. So I love the Jerry Goldsmith score. It's big, it's sweeping, it's epic, but the Tangerine Dream one really stands out more to me, even though I heard it described as like, somebody on the Blu-ray special features was like, yeah, there's somebody involved in the movie. And they were like, yeah, the Jerry Goldsmith, like when the unicorns come out, there's like this nuance of sadness about it, right? And when the Tangerine Dream score, it sounds like My Little Pony. I was like, I like that My Little Pony vibe. What about you, Joe? What do you think about the music in the film?
Yeah, no, I do love Tangerine Dream. I think Jeff Goldstein, that this is just for me, it's just a superior soundtrack in so many different ways. The dance with the dress is more dark and menacing. Like it all adds to the dark and menacing nature of the film. The Tangerine Dream score changes the tone too much. It's like too whimsical, and it leans into that with like, there's really no hero's journey with Jack in the theatrical cut. He's like, I'm a hero already, and like things like that. Like it plays. Yeah, and I mean, and part of this too is kind of everyone who worked on the movie hated the score, because the everyone was like pretty pissed off that they did this. And I mean, all the other things too, it's like, I enjoy it for like the cheese factor, but like what was it? The songs with what, the guy from Yes, and then like Brian Ferry or
Those
whatever,
are rough.
they suck. But a lot of the Tangerine Dream, again, like it's very dated. There's no real classical element to it. It was all done in post, whereas they scored the music for the dancing dress scene like there, like they had it to dance to, and he had had lyrics to those songs that Lily sang, like that was like, there's so much more intention in the director's cut, and there's that added bonus of Tangerine Dream again had to do it all after the fact, whereas like having it so integrated, I think, helped in the director's cut, where the soundtrack never overpowers what you're seeing on the screen, and the visuals are so striking and so incredible that you kind of want a score to go with that enhances that experience, whereas I think Tangerine Dream kind of drowns it out in the theatrical cut, and it turns into a music video in a lot of scenes and not scenes of a movie with a great score. So it's part of why in this case, and I do love Tangerine Dream, I think the director's cut score is just superior in every single way.
Well, it definitely is integrated more into the film, like you said, for sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, Tangerine Dream, they did this after the fact. They did this in 3 weeks. So
yeah, no,
I mean, it's Near
incredible.
Dark. It ain't Near Dark. I think Near Dark is a better score. I think Risky Business was the best score of theirs I've read. I mean, I've listened to so far, but I just got a copy of Thief, which I've never seen, the Michael Mann film. So I'm excited to hear what that one is. But
nice.
I'm going to try not to feel personally attacked by your thoughts on Tangerine Dream score to Legend and move on to Brooks. Brooks, what do you think about the music in the film?
I liked it. Like, it felt is very much a part of the film. Like, it did stand out to me in like a couple of places, but overall, like, it did kind of just blend into the movie. It didn't feel it. It just felt like a natural part of the movie. So yeah, I mean, good score, but not particularly. It didn't stand out as much as like some other scores for me, I don't think.
Okay, what about you, Jelani? What do you think about the music?
I like Jerry Goldsmith a lot. In fact, the best thing about the Star Trek: The Motion Picture was da, 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 da. That's the only good part of that movie. That movie sucks. It's trash.
I'm going to try not to feel attacked about that either, because that's the best Star Trek movie in my opinion. But whatever. Robert Wise for the win. Robert Wise.
Absolute trash. They used it for. It was so good that they used it for the TV show. It was great. But he's got great scores. This is kind of one of them. It's fine. It's serviceable to this movie. It works really well with the fantasy aspect. I can't remember the Tangerine Dream music because I have to watch the theatrical version of Legend for me to remember it. Was it like do no? No, it had like a Princess Bride kind of feel to it in parts.
It has this like I don't know. It's more. It's like them, but it's not as like do as them. But it, you can find it on YouTube.
But it feels dated. Yeah. But I mean, Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, but if you're just kicking back doing shrooms or something, put that on, man. You're gonna have a fun time.
And you're just like, wow,
oh sure, yeah,
this will work, And I kind of get it. So I mean, for this score, yeah, it's bombastic in parts. It's whimsical in parts. It makes sense to add someone with the gravitas of Jerry Goldsmith into your director's cut because it's going to work, and it works well for this. I think I remember the Tangerine Dream stuff as I'm going through my head. So I mean, I can't say which one is better. I remember more so the Tangerine Dream stuff, but it's hard to remember. But I remember liking it when I liked the first and when I watched Layden. So, I mean, it was fine. Like I said, very serviceable for a basic story that looks fantastic. So, it's great. I mean, it goes well with what I watched. And I had to split it up because, like, I had to give it to Brooks. And he actually got to see some of the ending, but I saw it all. And
it's odd on all the services where you could like rent it or stream it or something. It's the US theatrical cut that's available now. It used to always be the director's cut. So everybody was having issues getting it. So this is actually an empty case. They have my Blu-ray. So I hope I get it.
Brooks got it. He ran around with it.
Okay.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right. What about the themes? What is the movie trying to say? What's it talking about, Joe? What do you think?
Again, going back to the basic structure of this, this is such a just like pure and stripped down like coming of age story of two people who think they love each other. And think that what loving each other means is you exchange rings and you get married and you stay together forever. And it's through maturing and sort of being forced to like having life sort of foist these, obstacles on you that both Jack and Lily are torn apart, have to mature on their own without each other's help. They come back and help each other at the end. And then, they realize they're not the same people they were at the end. And there's no bitterness, but they are grateful for each other and they move on. And it's in that sense, this movie is oddly one of the like most thoughtful and mature sort of looks on that in a movie without like necessarily like beating you over the head. It's I'll rephrase it a little bit. It's one of the more thoughtful examinations of that's like wrapped in sugar. It's like it's giving you this lesson as like candy. But sour. There's it's like a gummy vitamin supplement. Like it's like, it's a yummy, fruity, sugary treat, but it's actually good for you. And that's what it does for me, I think.
Nice. Well put. I like that. I take gummy vitamins every day. I love them. Yeah. Like after lunch, I'm like, What about you, Brooks? What do you think? What's this movie saying to you?
Well, I think a big message in the movie is kind of like the having respect for the natural order, like because like the whole like beginning of the thing is like this like he's showing this person that he cares about like this like magical thing, but like the whole thing is like you look, but you're not supposed to touch. Like the unicorns are meant to be observed. You're not supposed to like actually try and like touch them, but she like. In her selfishness, she disregards that. She doesn't care, and that leads to like the whole problem is like now that she's done this thing, she's disrespected this natural order that and now the bad things can start happening. It's like the chain, the cause and effect. If you like she's so caught up in like she wants to to do what she wants to do. She kind of feels like, she's restrained, I guess, like, the whole princess thing is like, oh, you have expectations and you're not allowed to do certain things. So she goes and she does what she wants, but, in this case, it was the wrong thing, and that's kind of the thing. Like, the whole lesson is like, it's good to follow your heart, but you have to also consider, like, you can't just consider like how it makes you feel. You have to think about, what kind of consequences there might be for, your actions.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Oliver Harper YouTube channel. He just does a great job with like retrospectives on movies and stuff. He did one on Legend, and he mentioned that it was very biblical at times. Like, they're like Jack and Lily are like Adam and Eve. They're in the garden. The devil's tempting her. She makes the mistake. The fall happens, and then they have to like redeem themselves or something like that. So it definitely has that element too, man. 100%. Good thoughts. What about you, Jelani? What's this movie speaking to you?
Yeah, I like Joe's reference of it. Basically, I'm gonna sum it up as puppy love. It's basically, I love it till it grows up, and and I love Brooks's thing of it being selfish and taking your own selfish desires and ruining, a good thing. I want to like focus on a little bit of both of those, because those were both in my head at the same time. You both said them, so I was like, "Crap!" It's funny being last, but I will say this: it's one of those. It is a big morality tale. It tells a story of, if you mess up, this will happen, and it is a fairy tale. Fairy tales mostly are telling that story. The three bears and Goldilocks. She went in, tried the porridge, slept in the bed, did the things. Bears came back, found her. Normally bears are just supposed to eat you, but they scared her off. But it's kind of that tale for children. Children don't touch the iron, it's hot. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't do this. Don't look both ways before crossing the street. It's that simple. As simple as the story is, and it shows that, like I said, going back to Joe's point of it being these two people that loved each other, they thought, and it turned out, when life happens, what do you do with love? What's love got to do with it? Kind of situation. It's a cute tale, but it tells a lot of story and it helps you grow up. It's just, like I said, it's just, I see it as a morality tale. It's just, you got to learn, and this is how you learn. And sometimes you got to fight the Lord of Darkness to get your point across. So not much for me, because basically both of them stole the thing.
No, you're right on the money, man. Y'all are right on the money. It's a coming of age tale. It's about young love. It's about the loss of innocence, right? It's about a fall. It's very biblical and about temptation and do the right thing. Don't touch the stove. Don't look both ways before cross the street, like you said. Otherwise, a unicorn may just like rage around you and start running around. And you got to know the right song to calm them down. But
right.
One thing I will add to that, which I really loved, and this comes through at the end, particularly when darkness is being defeated, and he goes, "What is the light without the dark?" Right? And so I think a big part of this movie is also balance, the balance of good and evil, that we all have darkness. We all have a shadow within us. In fact, one of the things I do like about the theatrical cuts ending is that they show that shot of darkness still alive and laughing, right? Kind of fading away. So I like that element that you're never going to defeat the darkness. It's always out there. And that kind of puts a nail into the idea that y'all were talking about, she made this mistake. She has to redeem herself. They have to move on. They got to continue to do the right thing because that darkness is always there. And I think that Lily I wish they would have stretched more of her temptation out just a little bit, right? And had us almost kind of be more fooled that she was like being lured to the darkness, because there are moments, and maybe it's because I watched the theatrical cut as well, but she does come across kind of bratty there, you know, a little bit selfish, like she doesn't listen. Even in the director's cut, like Jack's like, don't do this, Lily. Don't do this. Like it's a sacred thing. You know, what does he say? Like, you risk your mortal soul, right?
Yeah.
But it is about that balance, and it's in all of us, right? And that's the balance that Lily has to find. And then to a lesser extent, Jack a little bit, but his balance is more about cowardice and heroism, right? Bravery versus the cowardice. So, and he overcomes that typical hero's journey stuff. But I love the idea imprinted in it that the darkness is supposed to be there, right? You have a night and you have a day, and the darkness is trying to be in balance too, right? He wants to rule the whole thing, and all that's going to do is destroy everything, right? But you need the day, you need the night, you need the light, you need the dark, you need the good, you need the evil. It all exists in all of us, and that's just a balance we got to maintain. So we will never defeat darkness, but all we can do is maintain the balance, right? Let the darkness have its time, let the light have its time. That's called being human, or a fairy, or a pixie, or a pygmy, or whatever the hell they are in this movie. But yeah, so that's what I think. Great conversation about the film. Now it's time to rate it. You out there in the chat, legend, what do you give it out of 5 possible you digs? Joe, kick us off.
With this, I really love this movie. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Part of this is also because, what are you going to do? Recommend someone a movie that's like Legend? Like, there really is, like, just visually, there isn't. You know, if there were more movies like this in this space, I could see the movie going down a little bit. If there were more movies that looked like this and maybe had a little more going on, a little more substance, or a better structure overall, but there isn't. So that style, the extra style, is just so much to this movie that, you know, I give it a 4.
All right, fair enough. A 4 you digs from Joe. What about you, Brooks?
Yeah, I'd give this one a 4 too. Like, I do like it a lot, but I wouldn't say it's like, you know, it would be a personal favorite. But it is like one I definitely would consider rewatching. You know, it is one that I think, like, given time, I might become more attached to down the road.
Yeah. All right. 2-4 so far. Jelani, where are you sitting?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna stand by what I said originally. It's rewatchable. It looks great. Tim Curry is freaking amazing in this movie. He is Chef's Kiss villain. Like, I wish he was in other things as Darkness. It would have, I don't know, it should elevate that character. Somehow that character should be in other things. But
the Legend Cinematic Universe.
I'm gonna go back. Yeah, absolutely. I want a Darkness universe. But I'm still gonna go with my 3-5. In our discussion, it's pretty much, it's a good film. It's a good film. I'll watch it again. Definitely. I've watched it multiple times in my life. So I'll definitely have to watch the theatrical cut again because of the music. But definitely a 3-5. It just lacks, I don't know, substance. It's good in the substance in ways, but it doesn't really tell a tale where I was just like, I love the love story. It made me cry, or it gave me an emotion. It didn't really give me that. It's a basic fairy tale, and I've seen them. You know what I'm saying? So not to knock the movie at all, but I think it's still a solid movie. So I'll still give it a 3-5.
All right. 4-4, 3.5. For me, I'm going to kind of be right in the middle of that. I'm going to go with a 3.69 is what I'm going to do. Like, I think it's a strong film. I think there's a lot of potential. I think there's still a cut to come. I think Ridley needs to get back to it, Blade Runner the shit out of this and do the final cut is what they need to do, right? Legend, the final cut. I think you should do that. And then I think that Blu-ray should have an option to toggle in the Tangerine Dream score if you so decide. But I definitely think that there is a really good movie there. I just don't think it's necessarily any of the ones that we actually got delivered, though the director's cut is the strongest one. Like I would give the theatrical cut like a 3 or something like that, right? This one, it's a 3.69 for me. So 3.69, 3.5, and 2 4s. And out there in the chats, it's all 4s and 4.5s. But that's a PCP average, 3.822569, dudes. So not too bad. Not pretty high score for a movie that was a commercial and critical failure when it came out.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, think about the trajectory. Think about the trajectory of Ridley Scott at this point. He did The Duelists, he did Alien, Blade Runner, which was another failure, right? Blade Runner was a failure when it first came out. Then he did Legend. What was the next one after Legend? What was it?
Oh God, I know this. It's another one that's not. It might be. Was Black Rain 88?
That might be.
I cannot tell you.
I'm trying to think.
Someone to watch.
The internet will
me.
tell us.
It's someone to watch over me and then Black Rain. That's what it is.
Okay.
I've never seen Someone to Watch Over Me. So to me, it's Black Rain then. Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe we should dig that one out of the closet one day. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Yeah, maybe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us for our movie review of Legend. Crew's Choice continues next week with Jelani's pick, Tropic Thunder. So that's what we're doing.
Like Tom Cruise, by the way.
We are considering this a Tom Cruise movie. It is Crew's Choice. It's Jelani's pick. And this movie does have Tom Cruise in it. I will also encourage you to join me for our very first Patreon exclusive watch party on May 22nd. That's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be watching The Crow live on Patreon. And if you're a member there, you can watch along with me and have a conversation while I watch it on VHS, the way that God intended it. So, Joe, thank you so much for being here. What you got coming up?
Thanks for having me. You can still get King Arthur the Knights of Justice through Maverick. You can get it there. It's my first YA graphic novel. So please, everyone, if you like that stuff, pick it up. It's a reboot of the 90s cartoon. And the next thing I have coming out is the a 10-pager in the DC Pride, a celebration of Rachel Pollack. I hope everyone checks that out. It also reprints Doom Patrol number 70 and Vertigo Vision's Brother Power the Geek, which has never been reprinted before. Mike Allred's debut at DC, as far as I'm aware. So I really hope people check that out. I would love for it to sell out at the distributor level to get people thinking that maybe they need more Joe and they need to reprint more Rachel Pollack stuff. So
yeah, that would be awesome. Everybody go check that out. I'm very, very excited. You're not going to be disappointed in any of the new material or any of the previously released material. Brooks, thank you for being here. I'm glad you got to watch this movie for the first time. This feels like a Brooks movie. It really does. So I'm glad you got it in your life now. Thank you for being here. Final thoughts?
Just me and the guy there, we do Go Figure reviews. So and we recently did a double shot of Turtles of Grayskull, which was nice, with the new Wave 3, with Surfer Dude, Michelangelo, Glow in the Dark Skeletor, Tila, and Casey Jones. And we also did Slaker, which was a Slash Faker combo. This is very nice. So yeah, so if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can check that out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Jelani, I appreciate you being here. What you got coming up? Final thoughts?
Yeah, same thing he said. Go Figure Reviews. Check us out. We're at 398 subscribers. So we need 2 more subscribers, y'all. 2 more, and we'll be 400. Yay! So excited. Nice. Thank you guys so much for that. We're going to, next week, we're going to try to work on the Zabu figure wave We'll start. I don't know which ones, but a friend of mine got them, and I'm gonna review his. He threw some boxes away, but it'll be a video. We'll make videos out of them. It's gonna be a thing. So check us out at Go Figure Reviews. Like I said, me and Brooks do that, and Legend is awesome. Tim Curry is awesome, and you guys are awesome. So yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, we appreciate everybody for being here. Don't forget, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on patreon.com/PCP. Watch along with The Crow with me live. And next week, we continue Crew's Choice with Jelani's pick, Tropic Thunder. All right, y'all. We're dipping out. Y'all have a good one. And for my final thoughts, one of the things I got very tired of in this movie was this. Lily! Jack! They scream for each other so fucking much in this movie. It's getting on my
Scott
nerves.
Gene.
Scott!
Yeah.
Scott!